to the All Africa Poker Tournament. Just one player left until we get to final table. So we are on the final table bubble.
Certainly are.
You can see the chip stacks looking a lot smaller. That's not because people have lost chips. That's because we chipped out a lot of the smaller chips. So you'll see those yellow chips have taken the place of all those big stacks.
Right, Dion Anthony, Cowboys.
Glasses on.
He basically is a short stack. He hasn't got much color in there. Not any purples or yellows for that matter, so he'll be looking for a double up in this spot.
I don't think he goes anywhere without that cigar or the sunglasses.
Well, he's certainly not going to go anywhere here. He's got Cowboys and he needs chips. Now you can see Gilbert Basilio, he's got a lot of color. He's actually got a very big stack there. And he was the one player that I kept walking into when I had my stack. Every time I raised, he just came back at me all in. So I gave up a lot of chips trying to be aggressive on Gilbert's blind. And he wouldn't hear it.
You were just sharing, Dave.
I was enjoying the wealth, you know. I mean, it's the first time I ever had any chips, so I might as well give them around. I'm a bit like the opposite of Robert Hood. I rob from myself and give to everybody else. Anyway, so Reda will give it up. So who's going to call Anthony here with kings?
How much more?
Conrad's thinking about it.
164, you're in.
149.
Yeah, total.
Kutzer likes the look of this. He smells the final table. And will he knock his player off here?
49,000.
He's made the call with ace queen. So,
Bit of work to be done by Conrad Kutzer in order to win this hand, hoping for an ace.
and this will be very, very, very helpful if Dion Anthony manages to get through here.
So, as horrible as it may sound, everyone else at the table is hoping for Kutzer to win because everyone wants to make the final table.
I certainly was, because I was going backwards in a heartbeat here.
You can do it. Come on, baby.
And you can hear a lot of talking in the background. Every time we're playing hand for hand at this point, which basically means that each hand had to be dealt simultaneously on both tables so that there wasn't any advantage to one table dealing less or more hands than the other. And every time we were in a hand, you found the outer table guys running into the feature room to have to see what the result would be if we were going to the final table.
Keep them red.
And it happened for hours.
Keep them low, keep them red.
Not sure what the red part's got to do with it, but anyway, a king on the river will seal 3 kings.
You can do it!
And
A bang on the table for Dion Anthony, doubles up.
Patience, space.
And look at that blind level. 20,000, 40,000 with a 4,000 chip ante now. We started this episode with a blind level, I think it was 7 and 14. So
It just shows how long they sit here for.
it can tell you this has been a serious long episode, and look at my stack how it's dwindled. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to raise with what at that time looked like absolute gold ace-jack.
89.
And you don't put the glasses on, Dave. Bad move.
Yeah, that's the first mistake I think I made here.
Check your cards.
Pull the glasses off.
Every time I won a hand I had my glasses on, so let's see how we go here. Ace-jack for Dadic, so I was again trying to pick up the blinds and antes and keep that stack growing, but every time I found myself getting whacked up against the wall, and you can see Dion Anthony's already looking suspicious of me here.
Thinking very hard with King 9. It's not a fantastic hand, especially this close to the final table.
I think if 11th spot didn't pay 80,000, I probably wouldn't have been as aggressive. May have been slightly more conservative and just held my
Sat back and waited.
head a little bit because I knew that the money was still coming. But the fact that the 80,000 was already given to me, I was just, you know, I was happy to take the money at that point. Not that amount of money, I wanted much more obviously, but I felt that we got through the bubble and I was just going to take advantage. Anyway, so Mileiro's called me with 10-8 of clubs here.
And the pot's already on 222,000, so you can see how big the pots get just from a raise and a call with only 2 players.
And the board comes 4, King 3.
Not a great board for either player.
Check, check.
And I choose to check for whatever reason.
Go.
So now the board brings a club for Mileiro.
So it gives him a draw, but other than that, he is drawing very thin. He needs only a 10 or an 8
60,000.
Or a club.
or a club.
And he makes a very small bet of 60,000, so I wasn't too concerned about what he had, you know. I was just wanting to see what he did in the river, and there was a lot of money out there already. So I made the call for 60,000 simply to see how he reacts in the river. Maybe you'll check the river having basically weakened himself somehow. I was waiting for him to see how he reacts in the river. Maybe he slows down and checks, or maybe he I could get a tell of him as to how strong he was. And at this stage I'm staring at him completely and utterly focused on what he was doing, and I must say I didn't think that he was very strong at all.
100.
But he did come out with 100,000 chips.
So it is quite a big bait, especially on the river. The river did bring, well, not much other than a straight draw, but
the problem I had here now is I'd already lost half my stack in being overly aggressive. As I've told you, and the blinds and antes were very, very high. Now he's asked me the question for 100,000. Now at this stage I'm getting 4-1. But you can see I keep looking at my chips, because I keep thinking how this 100,000, if I'm wrong about my call here, is going to affect me going into the final table. And I probably shouldn't have been thinking about that. But every time I try to analyze his hand, I couldn't give him a hand. And then the overriding thought I kept having was,
Try bluff me, Miguel.
will this 100,000 rand be too expensive for me at the final table?
so you can hear what you said in the background. You did almost put him on a bluff,
I honestly thought he had absolute air here. I really did.
but
I really, really thought he had absolute air, and he was completely and utterly just betting me to get off my hand here. But I think he also knew that my state of mind at the time wasn't great, because I've been suffering a lot of chip losses.
Tastes like beer.
And he knew that 100,000 to me at this point would be a situation that if I was wrong about my call, it was going to affect me mentally, because I'd lost so many chips.
You got a king. You got a king.
there's a very tense part of the tournament where everyone wants to make final table. Every decision is a major decision, could be
What do you want, Chuck?
life-changing in terms of your tournament.
And I must say, he looked very, very relaxed and calm to me.
Well, he does to me too, Dave. Don't worry, you weren't wrong about that.
I must say, he looked very, very comfortable, but at the same time, maybe that sense of overcomfort was a sense of weakness, and strong is weak, weak is strong. But that kept coming into my mind, the 100,000, my stack would be down to like 250 or 300, and I would really have lost about 60 to 70% of my stack. I was feeling very, very, very ill at the time about how many chips I'd lost.
100,000.
100.
There it is again. I asked 100,000. I just can't get past this number.
Would it have been easier if it was 99,000?
I think it would have just been easier if I just snap called it. If I just went with my read immediately, which I'm prone to doing when I feel like I've got a read in a person, I feel like I'm in front. I don't like to think about it too often, because thinking often makes you overthink the situation and puts thoughts in your head that you probably shouldn't have. So I generally, in situations like this where I feel like I'm in front, like to call pretty quickly. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But again, I just had this chip count in my mind. You can see I don't leave those chips alone. And
I got jacks, man.
now I'm giving him a bit of a garbage story to see exactly how I can get anything off him. And I must say, he looks really, really comfortable even here. Now looking at him on TV, and I thought as much when I was looking at him at that time as well.
I just don't know what hand I can give you. Would you really check that king?
I think that's where I made the mistake by checking the king. That's exactly where I made the mistake. I did raise pre-flop, and with so much chips out there, I should have fired a nice big healthy bet in the flop. And if I was wrong, I was wrong, but I should have tried to take it down then. But again, in context of the situation and having lost half my stack by this stage, it was difficult to fire a big continuation bet of over 100,000, because if he comes back at me, I probably would have put a bullet in my mouth.
Wow, I'm so close to calling this.
And I must just tell you, I really wanted to call this. I really, really, really wanted to call this.
Does it make it harder being in the poker room where you've got a lot of people watching you, you've got the big screens up, you've got the lights going?
I think it counted in the first session where before that double up through Chris Sham and through Joe Rami, it sort of weighed on my head in the beginning of the day, but already now you see we've been here for about 4 or 5 hours. So by this stage I think I already kind of got accustomed to it. It wasn't too much of a problem at this stage. This stage was just simply I was the chip leader of the tournament, or of the table at least. I'd been overly aggressive. I'd been throwing away chips left, right and centre, just being silly.
Okay, take it.
And there I give up the winning hand for 100,000 chips, getting 4-1, and that just put the nail in the coffin as far as my mental state was concerned.
You can see Miguel showed his 10-8, so he did show you the bluff. So obviously it adds to the irritation and the aggravation of not calling, losing all those chips, knowing that you should have won.
Right, so David, Dadic,
Andre,
tilt in a tracksuit.
please.
That's an excellent fall.
I think he told me at that tournament, Dad, that you were going for a new strategy with what you wore. You weren't going to wear the smart clothes anymore. You were hoping the tracksuit would bring you luck.
Well, it looked like I was doing great guns to this point, but you can see my stack has gone completely the opposite end of the spectrum now.